Top left-hand side, our blue Terran player from Dragon Kaiser Gaming. This is Oliveira. I saw the results of GSL yesterday and I was like, man, that is... I didn't watch the games, but I was like, the results are wild. And the second thing that went through my head is some people are going to be really upset that someone like Maru goes out in the first round of this day and age's GSL, and I'm like, oh my god. Do you know how many people are going to be so upset because now when people argue about Reyno and then Reyno getting knocked out of GSL, do you know how many people used to be like, well, Reyno's not good, look, he went to GSL, he went lost in the first round. Now people can be like, well, look, Maru did that too, it can happen to anyone. Yeah. Finally. So, some justice in the world. Maru, your sacrifice is appreciated. Not that I'll stop them. People that had that dumb, silly opinion in the first place will probably still spout it, but and find other ways to back it up. But yeah, I was kind of somewhat appeased by that, I suppose, as we do have probes going down. Stats is in the bottom right. I never actually entered stats. I got sidetracked already. As we just get set up, the probe's going to nibble at that engineering bay and try and take their way through it. So again, find themselves a little bit of damage to start out with. Not too bad. Obviously just engineering bay trying to slow things down a little bit and just kind of force you into an odd third location, or an odd natural location even as stats. These are things you obviously have to try and deal with when the Terran puts that engineering bay in place early in the day. So that's definitely something of a factor. There's a cyber core coming through, the factory coming up, and we just have ourselves the reactor coming in as well. So again, all is on the way, the adept coming through too. A lot of bits and bobs of the setup phase really being figured out here in the first few moments. Again, Wargate coming up, the adept is about to be done, the Nexus is over halfway done. We do have this SCV, yeah, just slipping and slicking down this bottom side is indeed going to go and pull the trigger and drop down the proxied starport. So there you have it. We are going to see a little bit of the aggression from Oliveira. As now the Twilight Council will come through to follow on the side of stats. So stats will not have like the joy of a Stargate kind of defense against this. This is going to have to be very on point. Unit positioning is going to be absolutely vital. Now, this is not going to be one of the easier defenses, that's for sure. First couple of Hellions are going to be used to deal with the Adept, which at least gives Stats some information. Now he sees the Hellions, and you can start to figure out, okay, well, if there's Hellions, what kind of things could this be? Does Proxy Starport, Proxy Medevac come onto your list of expectations here? I would say very possibly. You know, it's always something that the Terran has in their pocket. Anytime you see Hellions, of course, it's not the only thing that could happen, but absolutely one of those. As the War Gate comes through, the Medevac's on the way, the Command Center coming up, the Racks as well. And still just a couple of Adepts sat out here chillin'. I don't know why I said that so weirdly, but such is life. Here we go. First Stalker in position, obviously 4 Hellions will one-shot probes, and that is a big part of the problem. You can one-shot a lot of probes, and you can get a lot of damage dealt, so yeah, it just happens so quickly. Like, if you just aren't perfectly set to defend this, you generally are going to have a whole bunch of trouble. As the Hellions continue to go, so far I'd say only 5 workers is generally pretty okay. Obviously it's not the best in the world, it's just absolutely not the worst either. So yeah, now we'll get up to 8. 8, but every single Hellion goes down. 9. And lost mining time as well. It did take a hot second to really clean this up, you know, I guess is one of the, real points to be made there as the starport works its way back to the upper left-hand side. So it's going to be pulling back here. Starport is on the way down and just seeing ourselves the bunker building as well. So a lot of little bits and pieces still being established here. As we just have Oliveira getting himself now defensive, of course, and wanting to make sure he's going to be safe against this now pressure that is on its way. So these few Stalkers are going to go pinging away, going to find a little bit of damage. And again, that bunker gets filled up, so the tank is there. I don't think there's anything Stats can do, even as he gets Blink. This is not some huge amount of gateways. This is not some crazy amount of Stalkers where you can blink on a tank, get rid of it, kind of micro back with a prism, and then go again. No, it's not that kind of a blink opening in the slightest. We don't have enough gateways to support that, so yeah, I'm going to see something just very different here in general. As you see, the Stalkers do blink into the main base. At least they are finding a way to be somewhat aggressive. Into the main base they go. A little bit of Marine tank going to continue back around. A couple more shots going off here. And just having, again, the defense then is being made. So yeah, I think you're pretty happy with that as Oliveira. You don't take any damage. You've already put yourself ahead early for sure. Things definitely seem to just be kind of trending upwards for the Terran. Like I say, oftentimes the scariest moment when you're playing these kind of Hellion drop builds is the follow-up attack, because A, you lose the Hellions, and B, even if you do have Hellions, you know, a lot of your kind of unit production early's gone into that, so then you aren't as well off as you might otherwise be. And you have a whole chunk of extra gateways coming up, the Robot Bay and the charge upgrade building as well. As I'm just going to very quickly see what Ellie's barking at, guys. I will be right back in just 1 second. Sorry, guys, just, excuse me. We are waiting for a delivery, so... Well, that might be it with Ellie barking, but it was not. As our Stalkers blink back away, they can get out of there just for the moment. And yeah, Colossus extended thermal lance all coming up. The Bioforce continues out through into the center of the map, so we'll continue through with that as well. Sorry guys, trying to get Ellie to shut up. She's been a very demanding puppy this morning, tell you what. Turned to the vets yesterday, and ever since she's been like, well, if you've taken me there, I demand your full and everlasting attention, and I will not take no for an answer. As Widow Mines drop down, there's one more mine still available actually, so that could cause some trouble as the Colossus production continues through. Zealot and Stalkers continuing out as well, so we continue to bring that up for the moment. And this all underway. And it does feel as though Oliveira in general right now is going to be... Well, I mean, it's still kind of in control. Like, Stats has an okay-ish work account. Like, things are in an okay spot for Stats. I just still look back to that early game like, well, Oliveira did better there. I think what he currently has is probably trending towards the speed. Like, it's not like, okay, Oliveira just needs to attack and end the game. There's definitely trending in the direction of Oliveira should be at the general advantage in this. There's a couple of Widow Mine shots going to go around. He doesn't really want it to go on the pros because the Sorgus can at least blink away. Mine comes out. There go a few more Zealots warping in and just having ourselves 1-1 upgrades coming up on the Forges. There's a couple of tanks are going to siege up, and now Bio Unit's going to sit here and it's going to go off onto the Robo facility. Robo taking quite a few shots of damage at the moment, so a lot of hits coming through. This Protoss army is actually taking a pretty good fight, though. Cleaning up on the low ground, at least, is going to work out quite nicely. The Bio at the end, though, is going to stand strong, and I thought Stats was actually doing well in that low ground, but there's just a little bit too much bulkiness to it, and obviously all the Widow Mines survived through that as well. And yeah, it looks as though it's probably going to be Oliveira's game then. Also, 1-1 upgrades to 0-0. Stats is on the way to that 1-1, so he's made the investment, it's just not ready yet. As he goes for some cute Colossus Micro, definitely the kind of thing that can help you out. But again, right now, is it enough? Probably not. GG's, and that is going to be Oliveira. Take the first map of the Kung Fu. In the top right-hand corner of the map, our blue Terran player, representing Dragon Kaiser. It's Oliveira. Takes on the red Protoss bottom left. Stats. Game number 2. Alcini is going to be one of the maps that definitely has made it in. I'm saying this is going to become one of the most standard maps that we play, I think. Both you know, I think specifically because just a lot of races seem to generally be able to agree upon this map, right? It's not particular, you know, there's a lot of choice on this map, so you can play it in a few different ways. So unless people figure it out to the point where it's like, oh no, this definitely is actually broken for X race, I think we're just going to continue to see Alcyone a lot in our tournaments, especially in best of threes, where there's a few more vetoes and everything. I think Alcyone is going to take a major stand. Anyway, and the assimilator continuing up just for the moment, friends, and get that on the way out. And just gonna have our barracks on the way through as well, so nothing really too surprising to begin with. This SCV is being hunted by pros, man. They are not letting him go free. They are making sure to keep an absolute eye on him, so well, SCV does actually put the engineering bay down, but obviously with probes already here, it's basically no HP on it, and the probes will be able to cancel this pretty quickly, so Stats will not have to place his expansion elsewhere. He will just be able to expand on location pretty much on time. It's still a few seconds ahead of the Terran, so yeah, I'd say you're pretty okay about this as the yeah, I'd say you're pretty okay as this is the Protoss player. This was one of the faster cleanups of an engineering bay block you're gonna see. As the Cybercore comes in, the Nexus is about to be done. Probe's still in production. I'm just gonna be having a wait to see what tech choice Stats throws down. Is he gonna go into the Stargate this time, or is he gonna go Twilight Council yet again? Obviously, these are important questions that really dictate a lot of how this game is going to look in the next little while, so we'll try and figure this out. End up shading around again. Nexus coming through. Probe Adept, Warp Gate, all coming up as a few extra Marines continue out as well. Adept continues to go shading about. You see the Cyclone on the way. Now, Stats actually just going to throw down 2 additional gateways, so it looks like he might actually try and bring the pressure this game. There's a Pylon going up on the other side as well, so he absolutely wants to bring the fight to Oliveira. And that is apparently now going to be the plan. There's a few Marines hanging out on the natural. The gates come up. And the Wolf Gate coming through too. The Marines come forward. The Adepts will take a couple of nibbles. So a little bit of damage being dealt there. Adept continues around. Cyclone is going to be there. We just have the Adept continuing to move across, and a couple of them probes still up in production. There go the Stalkers, so we get the warping readied up right now, and like I say, should just be a couple moments before we see Stats hitting some aggression. The Robo went to follow up. Gonna give him some warping potential across the map, some further pressure potentially, so definitely a couple of different options there for what could be next. The Marines trying to push back these Stalkers, actually having an okay time of it, to be fair. Not too painful. And Stalkers are continuing to push themselves into fun positions, and obviously the Widowmine being dodged as the Stalkers continue into this base. 4 SCVs already go down, and Stats is going to continue now for a little bit extra. He's going to get a couple more Marines. 6 SCVs dead. These Stalkers may indeed be dead as well, but we'll finish off 2 more Marines, and these Stalkers are really having a go of it, guys. I mean, this is really good damage. 1 more Marine. Adept now about to shade, and there's going to be basically no units left. We're going to get at least a few more SCVs as well. Oliveira is taking a crap ton of damage right now, having a bad time of things over here. As our tank will siege up, and we'll try and see what it is we may be able to do. Twilight Council and the Forge both building in. Widowmine goes off on the Adepts, and I think with the tank here now, this is going to be over, but Stats has established himself One hell of a lead. You're talking about a 13 worker advantage right now, so that is a massive gain on what your opponent is working with. That is going to be exactly what Stats wants out of this, especially because this kind of build, you know, you're working with the, you're really hurting yourself by building gateways before tech. Your tech is then going to be late, so you need this to be successful early. If you're not successful with this early, you get into a very bad position, and then you got to really figure your way out of that, and, you know, in this case, you do enough damage that the later tech units is going to be absolutely fine, or the later upgrades, because Oliveira doesn't exactly have much power to come swinging across the map and punishing you for being later on said things, right? So, that's generally the big victory point there. As you see a couple of Stalkers, a couple of Adepts come down. SCV is going to get chased away. A Liberator Sieges on top of this third base as well. It's just going to get that up and running straight away. With our Siege Tank still repositioning too. So Stimpak Combat Shield going to come up. Liberator continues all the way out across the map. And head back home and apparently not have herself an opportunity just yet to do too much. As soon as those bio upgrades finish, I guess we'll really see where Oliveira stands. How much damage has he taken? Is it too much? You know, can he actually recover from this, or is this going to be somewhat manageable still? These are the big questions we can ask ourselves. As the again, +1 attack, Senate Thermal Lance charge, all continuing up. The extra gates come through, the Forge is coming in. There's the Liberator sieging around the back as well. So, also getting that up and running. Plus the attack, +1 armor, blink, extended thermal lens, again, all continuing to come on through just for the moment. And Liberator is still being annoying. I mean, even Stalkers patrolling there might be caught. Stats gonna have to pay attention to it. Oliveira is launching a drop over here, an attack into the third base. Attacking to the third base as a tank sieged up. Stats is going to start pushing into it. A couple of Zealots firing. Colossi starting to put some work in as well. So, going decently. The Widow Mines, though, get rid of 13 probes and Stats. Just not able to keep on top of all of the things that Oliveira is doing. And he really was kind of going absolutely everywhere. So, you know, I can't really blame Stats for losing a little bit of tracking on that. Understandable, but obviously at this level, those are the sort of mistakes which are going to cost you to the point of no return. Most likely, a lot of the time, at least. Immobile will gather up down on the bottom. We do have ourselves at least Prism Speed coming up, so maybe Stats can find some harass with that. Maybe there's a way to get something done. And do you see our yeah, like I say, maybe the Prism Speed upgrades are looking okay for Stats too if he gets there, but obviously you need enough units to utilize upgrades, and having lost so much to those Widow Mine drops, I'm not sure that's necessarily going to be a factor. And also Oliveira is going to do stuff like this. He's going to come take complete and total control of just map control. He's going to drop around everywhere. You see the Colossi and Zealots coming through. Widow Mines at the front are being knocked down. I mean, it's going to be a bit of a base trade, but Oliveira already shutting down all of the pylons, so no gateways in the main. That is big, because one of the big things for Protoss during a base trade is at least the ability usually to keep on producing for a while longer than the Terran. You know, because you can warp in kind of anywhere. Your units aren't going to just be stranded at home either, so there's generally a lot of benefits to that right now. You can just see Oliveira at least is going to be able to shut all that down. However, Oliveira still needs to be able to deal with this army on the other side, and right now that just ain't happening. So Stats is finding himself progression. I liked how the base trade started for Oliveira. Felt like he struck quickly, but it may just be that Stats' army is too powerful anyway, especially if he maintains himself a +2/+1 lead. That engineering base somewhere from Oliveira is about to finish up +1 armor. And can Stats find that and deny it in the next 13 seconds? He's going to find it, but he's not going to put any, major attention to it. He's just going to clean it up as and when he will. As the Zealots charge through, and like I say, Stats is going to find himself on this natural expansion of Oliveira. Oliveira has no SCV, so Oliveira can't just rebuild a chunk of, rebuild a command center or so here, but he does have 1 CC. However, when you're supply blocked, you obviously can't build SCVs, so he's not going to have a way to get any future SCVs or any future mining, and because of that, he's going to call GG's, and we are going to go take ourselves to a game number 3 of this series. Stats is going to take us the distance in ourselves going. In the top left-hand side, we're going to have ourselves the blue Terran player. This is going to be Oliveira from Dragon Geyser Gaming. In the bottom right, our red Protoss is going to be Stats from the Freaks, of course. Great to see Stats back and playing in a lot of events as well, especially because we know Stats has been back for a little bit, but obviously he wasn't really like playing in all of the open tournaments and everything, so it's always just nice when he then shows us that he is interested in playing the open events, because it feels like he's back in a bit more of a serious manner, I guess. Which is, obviously, when you've got someone the caliber of Stats, only ever going to be a good thing for StarCraft 2. So yeah, very excited and happy to see Stats playing in the Kung Fu Cup on a weekly basis, absolutely just taking part in whatever events he can. Obviously, he played the WardiTV Korean Royale as well, which was really nice. Obviously, it was great to see him in that one too, so yeah, taking part in some events and everything. Very happy to see Stats back yet again. As our Nexus goes down on the natural expansion. Single Marine out. Obviously, Oliveira yet to expand, going for that factory first, so he's looking to try and put on a little bit more pressure with an earlier factory. Woody looks as tired as I feel. I probably look pretty tired. I've had a few days. I've had a few days going on, okay? You love me, Socky? Thank you. Bit of kind words. Woody's casting is tasty. Also, wonderful discussion in the chat. Never really tasted my own casting before, but now you mention, I'm like, you know what? I can imagine the casting being tasty. Scrumptious. Fire cancel on the way through. We have ourselves Stats going into that Twilight yet again. Obviously, not as much pressure this time off the opener. I'm gonna play this a little bit more standard. Obviously, Stats winning a map over Oliveira. The thing is, here's what I feel about with Stats, is I feel like he plays very well when we see him play, but he oftentimes does just have those moments where he has a great game, but then can't quite close out, or like in the last game, he was doing just fine, but then he has the big Widow Mine shots going off. It's the little finishing touches that I feel like Stats is really lacking in his gameplay, right, since coming back from the military. Generally, he's kind of there. He's absolutely at a pretty darn high level, but it's just not quite consistent enough yet. Like I say, he has a lot of good setups, gets himself in a lot of good positions. It's just a little bit more for him to do still to really hit right at the very top one more time, as the Adept and the Stalker are going to be under fire here. There is a battery. The Cyclone's obviously fairly powerful nowadays, but I think in this case we are looking at a pretty comfortable defense with the super battery, even with a second Cyclone showing up. Obviously, this is giving you time now to get an extra warp in, and every extra Stalker is only going to help, as the Stalkers have good micro potential back and forth with the Cyclones, so you do exactly that, back and forth, utilizing the super battery well also, and just slowly chipping away at this assault of Oliveira, who, again, did go factory before he expanded with a little bit more aggro. Oh, in the end, he does grab those two Stalkers, so if Oliveira was looking for a little extra, that is very much so a lot of what he would have been wanting. That's going to help him out a whole bundle, as now Robot Facility coming up on the side of Stats, Blink still coming through, a couple probes coming out. And that Blink on the way as well. I mean, that's obviously no surprise off the Twilight Council, unless he was going to play something like DTs, which we probably don't really expect too often of Stats. You see Stalkers coming through, the Marines jump back into the bunker there. And again, the robotics facility is just going to continue to come up for a little bit. Charge on the way. Robot on the next is coming through. And do drop a forge down on that main base, so getting that ready to roll for a few moments. Observer coming out, our stim pack and +1 attack coming in. Again, all this good stuff coming through for the moment here. So again, this all up and ready and rumbling. And all of that underway. Goes, thank you so much, Scrollich. How you doing for the 2-year resub? Bow, 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 bow. Thank you so much for the 2 years, mate. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for continuing to enjoy the StarCraft here on WardiTV. Thank you for all the support, man. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are, guys, I don't want to mention it or start selling out too early or anything, but we are on the run up to 1,000 subscribers. I've been saying over the last few days. In general, we don't really hit 1,000 subscribers very often, but we're only about 40 away, so with a good little push today and the next couple of days before I'm away for the weekend, maybe we could see that that 1,000 subscriber count again this year. I think when the last time, I think we had 1,000 subs back in, I think it was like leading off my birthday in like January or so. I think it has been almost the full year. Maybe we had about 1,000 subs just before we had the ESL regionals this year as well, I think, perhaps, maybe. Either way, my point is we don't get there a lot, so if you're feeling generous and you enjoy the content, you want to support, consider dropping a Prime sub or so. Or if you're really feeling generous, of course, you can give some subs too, or just sub regularly. I guess it'd be cool to see 1,000 once again. If for nothing else than just to say we can still get there, you know. As you have this Bioforce, though, coming through, Oliveira is pushing. And he is sending a couple of medevacs out on the map as well, so bringing those out over to the far right-hand side. He's going to just drop into the main base in the next couple of moments here. So those medevacs trying to get active. And a couple of Stalkers going to come out onto the edge. Going to start fighting again. Some of that bio here from the Zealots. Stalker's actually going to blink down, go after the medevac, although for the moment the medevac does manage to escape away. Force back to the upper left-hand side. Stats working around the bottom right. Zealots, Colossus, extended thermal lance, all coming through. Our +1 armor upgrade coming out as well. Let's have ourselves. This Bioforce is obviously getting stockier and stockier. I'm looking at him like, man, it's kind of beastly how much bio there is. It's kind of packed into that force right now, so that's feeling pretty good. See Oliveira with hopes of taking some larger fights. His stats, his army is looking good too, though. And obviously, we're getting to the point now where you expect him to start moving away from just Colossus as his splash tech. Whether that's into Disruptor straight away, or maybe we do see a Templar Archives drop down. That choice, like I say, should be made fairly soon from stats. That really is something that should be coming in shortly, so waiting to see what happens on that one as our Widow Mine drops down. And +2 attack, +1 armor, all being brought in for the moment. And just having ourselves that Ghost Academy about to finish up. Templar Archives, like I say, is on the way, so we're actually going to go Disruptors, but also get the Templar Archives, which isn't a bad choice, because then you also have access to the just Archons in general from the High Temple, even if you don't go Storm. I know we all like to meme about Archons just dying to EMP, which to be fair they do, but they do still have something of a role to play in these armies as well. You know, they still can be very stocky and tanky, you know, if they aren't eating the EMPs, and they do kind of soak the EMPs for the rest of the army as well. You know, you've got to focus EMPs on those Archons, otherwise they are going to kind of wreak havoc, so it is nice to be able to see the opportunity to have those Archons up and running. Our Prism coming through as well, so just getting that position here. There's a whole extra bunch of Zealots actually just warped in, so they're going to warp in as well for just a couple of moments to get all of that up and again underway. Seeing our few bio units continuing to cleanup then, and that is going to be 11 SCV. So I mean, nice damage from stats, really. You know, you're getting the right amount of damage done, if nothing else, across the board, right? You're definitely getting it to add up in your favor. You know, the fact you're being aggressive at all is generally a good thing. I like where stats is placing himself. Obviously, still a long way to go, but yeah, right ideas. Now moving his main army forwards. I mean, I say a long way to go. He's actually maxed out against the 170 of Oliveira. If he can find a fight, the only problem is Golden Ore is such a good defensive map. I feel like this kind of position here is extremely difficult to push on into, right? It's like so tough to find a justified attack up these ramps, because you go up a ramp, then you run straight into a choke point, and there's just all sorts of reasons why it ain't exactly ideal. That disruptor is quite nice, though. It's definitely going to help you to justify these sort of moves. And stats, again, just lingers on the edge. Another warp it into the main base is going to stay on being annoying, as he's going to look to cancel engineering bay number 2. That's only just now starting to make an appearance in the game. Fire coming forward, and the MP goes down on those Zealots as well. Looks like firing Zealots charge forward. The Stalkers are going to be in the back. And just having one more disruptor shot going to land on a Marauder there. Bioforce still coming through back up to the top. Just going to be hanging back there for the next couple of moments. Shadow Stride. Coming in. +3 attack, +3 armor. We'll continue now. Have a few Vikings get back to the upper left-hand side as well. We continue to scan out and around and look to see just what it is that's going on. Disruptor still coming through. +3 armor coming out. The army pulling back down the left. Like I say, stats might have had a fairly scary push, but it's so difficult to close things out on this map, so it doesn't necessarily matter unless he finds a way in. He's going to kill off these rocks, which will open up this area on the high ground that little bit extra. So again, he's trying. Like, you can see he wants to get there. He knows he does. Just actually getting there is a little bit of a different situation. A couple DTs coming around. I mean, stats, of course, at the very least during this is taking good map control. Talking about a fifth base that's already going down and even being saturated. So Oliveira doesn't have any drops during this time, right? Like, that's the main thing. He doesn't have anything that says, oh yeah, I'm going to start dealing damage. And Sat actually finds himself up the ramp on this right-hand side. Interesting little scenario, because then Oliveira is kind of pushing back up the ramp into him. As we come through here, can these Zealots get in the front and do enough? Vikings do get rid of the Colossi. They might just land to help out against these Stalkers. Disruptor's doing what they can, but Stats' army has definitely not fared as well as he would have liked it to have done. It's definitely looking a little worse for wear here, as he does get fully cleaned up, and Oliveira is going to retake a lead in the supplies this game. So Stats might have just messed up, guys. That may just be a little bit too difficult to recover from. Yeah, that might just be a little bit too difficult to recover from. He does have money, although not a ton of gas. The problem is you obviously lose the Colossi, and then you lose the Disruptors on top. You know, that really means that you've lost yourself everything that came off the Robos, so that takes a little while just to reset in general. Robo units obviously can only build one at a time if you're trying to replace Disruptors and Colossi. If nothing else, your army's never quite the same, because I mean, if you're going to focus on the Disruptors here, you're never going to have that backline of Colossi up and running again, so you're not going to be as much of a dual threat as you were in the previous kind of stage of the game, where you were constantly putting damage out with the Colossi, but you also had big AoE potential at any moment with the Disruptors. He is going to send a lot of DTs up the map, so Harassment Squad is on from Stats, and he will try to utilize his advantage there, perhaps. I mean, he does have Shadow Stride, remember, so these DTs have potential. He's going to try and, well, I was going to say do something on the right side. It kind of feels more like Stats is dying on the right side than finding any form of success. Just going to see a couple Disruptor shots coming down, really just trying to get these last couple of bio units, but that's going to be really tough. It's just a little bit too much Terran and Stats. Well, he keeps his opponent on 4 bases. That's pretty much the one thing I can say. He's keeping Oliveira there and hasn't taken eco damage himself when he lost that previous army, right? So you got to kind of look at that in a positive light, I suppose, too, is that he does potentially still have a rebuild on the board. But I mean, his supply is just not going up. Like, stats is just stuck at like 135 supply. I feel like he ain't going anywhere at the moment. 9 more Zealots, 7 more Stalkers, all warping in. I mean, he has so much gateway production, but I mean, I guess now his supply jumps up as that gateway production kicks in for a couple of moments. But yeah, like I say, I feel like I need to see a lot more to still be convinced of this position of stats. As he does start diving forward here, and is he going to be able to get enough done? As he does start to get pushed back, the Stalkers and the Zealots, the Disruptors push down the ramp once again. Going to jump on the left-hand side, finds a Liberator there. Continue to try and trade the Disruptors. Scary, and actually getting a lot of good shots, but you're fighting in planetary range, and killing entire CVs is something, but are you really going to be able to win this with Stalker Zealot? I mean, he really feels like he can. As he's going to come through. The Liberators will go down. Widowmine going off, though. Widowmine's actually doing a lot of damage. And the Stalkers, anytime they're just taking shots on their own, are obviously not having a good time. Planetary Force continues fighting. Zealots keep dropping. The Bioforce coming over, going after those Stalkers once again. A couple of those will fall. You do scan up. The Observer gets chased away. Zealot, Stalker, Disruptor all coming out. And the army still heading in general just down to the bottom side of the map. Well, down to the south, we do see Zealots and Stalkers here to try and fight it off, and I think Stas might be able to defend. The thing is, what he's doing is very good at kind of not dying, because what he's doing is he's setting up to essentially just consistently build masses of gateway units, so that will do very good at just, like I say, not dying. As Oliveira takes a while to walk across the map and reinforce, Stats will get there with his units immediately, but then you're still not progressing this. We've seen that obviously it's not working offensively for Stats, and you know, while he's not dying, he's not exactly pushing himself into some crazy, amazing position in some other ways. So, there's a couple of Marauders, Ghosts, Medivacs, all continue out here. We have ourselves the Zealot Stalker Force going to come back around up the right-hand side, just still trying to find some opening, still trying to find a little bit of something. Widowmine after Widowmine going down now. Zealots are going to come up here. The supplies are still almost convincingly close. I just do not feel like the tech is there when it comes to Oliveira's army. Still feel like that is an issue as... sorry, for Stats' army, that is still my issue in and amongst this game. I fight, obviously, Oliveira just trailing out a few reinforcements. If he takes a bad Disruptor shot, I mean, it might be enough to knock Stats into favor where he can get it done. He's starting to really make progress onto this mineral line as well. So again, we're seeing things are kind of working slowly but surely for Stats. Slowly making some progress. But the Stalkers come through again. The Bioforce will take a few shots of damage and will then come back out and around. Stats is once more going to poke up the left-hand side. A few Stalkers are going to go nibbling forward. 19 minutes on Golden Aura. And like I say, Stats has done nothing but build, I guess, a few Disruptors alongside gateway units. I was going to say he's done nothing but build gateway units for the last 10. But he has built Disruptors along with it. And like I say, it feels close enough that maybe just one Disruptor shot in the right direction at the right time could be enough to really kind of offset things here, you know? I mean, it's 30 army supply difference. Oliveira is obviously not having the best of times fighting against it, so if a couple good Disruptors go off, like this one, gets killed before it hits, that's a big deal. Like I say, with the right Disruptors, maybe there's some hope. We do kill off this base. Stats may just be content with a base kill and just say, okay, now I can step back a little bit. Fire still coming through. The couple of Zealots going to get chased down. The Stalkers as well having to back it up at the moment here, so they will fall back. One more Disruptor shot firing, but not quite landing. Nexus on the way. As do have another scan coming out. Bioforce still moving. And down to the south. And it's going to take the watchtower, and also, that's a cheeky little gold base in that corner, remember? So, while Stats takes the upper right blue base, the bottom left gold is going to be attempted to be taken by Oliveira. If Stats can't stop that, that's going to be a little bit of boosted economy, and that might just make the difference. As we do have a Bioforce. Trying to fight through. A couple disruptor shots do begin to land. Continuing to come out here just for the moment. Extra round of Zealots coming through as well. So again, getting a lot of that up and running here. Marines, Marauders, +2 ship weapons still mining away off of our gold base just for a little bit longer. As the disruptor shots powering up and hitting just slightly. I just feel like Oliveira has better control over the supplies than he has done in the rest of the this game, though. The supply looks a lot more convincing than it has in a while. And I just say that because he's like 30 to 40 supply ahead instead of like 20, I guess. Gonna find this top right base, and as he puts the Widow Mines up now, Stats actually gonna start charging in these mines. A couple of them got denied before they went up. I do think the mines are going to be a fairly important part of this as Zealot Stalker continues to charge through, and just having ourselves... Well, Stats chasing, because obviously he wants to try and deny this gold base, but it's already a planetary fortress, and we know that Stats' army is not exactly designed to kind of go through planetaries. You know, planetaries of all things are pretty tough structures, so when you're kind of playing with the bare bone units, well, that is the gateway force, you know, killing a planetary at this point in time is going to be extremely difficult, unless you have just overwhelming amounts. So TLDR, if Stats wants a shot at knocking that base down, he needs to really outnumber Oliveira. Otherwise, it just ain't going to happen. As more disruptor shots will come through, lining up on a couple of Widow Mines already, so finding some damage with that. Disruptor shots everywhere. Stats counterattacking at the same time. I mean, it is possible he causes enough chaos to make this work. Army supplies are coming out to be even, and as you attack in more places as Stats, there is potential to catch your opponent off guard with those disruptors as well, so maybe some big damage is looming based on that opportunity or potential. You can see the last few shots of these Stalkers going off for the moment. Again, a few more hits in. Once again, Oliveira defending down on this bottom side, definitely finding a good amount of success on that base. Seems to be one of the main ones for him to have locked down. And again, the fact it's a goal just means slightly boosted income too, which at this stage of the game is, you know, in such a close game is especially a pretty big deal. You know, if this wasn't such a close game, then we're probably like, eh, what does it matter? But like in a close game like this, actually it is a pretty big deal, so yeah, a lot to think about there. There's a couple Stalkers still cleaning up. We did lose that top right base of Stats. Does Stats run out of money here at any point soon? Or is he going to continue to be okay? I guess another reasonable question to ask ourselves is disruptor shots coming through, and we are going to try and get this planetary fortress. Oh, this is a big deal for Stats as he commits forward. I mean, he might get the planetary, but he's going to lose pretty much every single Stalker. He's coming from the other side, although maybe not, as he kills 20 SCVs. He's actually going to turn on the army from the right. The army on the left was dead before the right side showed up, and Stats is going to come through, blinking after those medevacs. Doesn't kill any, but the job is done. What he went out to achieve, deny the gold base, actually happens. I was kind of pegging that as a bit of an impossibility for Stats. I really did not have that as something he was going to get done with the army he was working with, but I was in fact very wrong. He does get it done. I mean, it took a lot of effort, but he gets there. He would have been really dead if that army on the right side showed up just a little bit sooner. That would have been actually straight up disastrous. Fortunately for him, that is not the case. And now Stats, having knocked a little bit more of the economy off from Oliveira, might find himself in just slightly better position. Good enough to maybe then start overwhelm with these gateway numbers. That's what this game has been about. Trying to overwhelm with the bare bone basic units. And so far, we've not really quite, you know, kind of cracked through properly, but like I say, maybe this is the deal breaker now. Maybe this is where the difference is made. Sort of shot here just finds a mine. The few Zealots leading forward. Here come the units down the ramp from the right. Stats' army supply is suddenly down by like 30 or 40 actually, so that's not actually looking too hot. It's going to be seeing our units still fighting. A couple of Archons getting to the front. If there's no Ghosts here, Archons can last quite a long time, and obviously Archons last a long time. That tankiness It's something that Stats hasn't really had. Extra Zealots coming through, the Disruptor Shot scares him back. So much of this Terran army is low HP, and also the Medivacs are very low energy, so not a lot of healing to be done. So while Oliveira's supply is in the lead, it's very possible you could argue that his supply is in the lead, and yet his army is still very close to going down. Again, this is the moment where actually if you did have something like a Storm, you could do very well for yourself, but it's obviously not currently the case. Io down to the bottom left, Stats try to take this gold base for himself, and Oliveira's like, I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I'm a fan of you having the gold. I didn't get the gold, you don't get the gold. Well, obviously Oliveira wants to try and get the gold himself. The Orbital's here. As this fight is going to ensue, well, we do obviously lose the base. That's a nice Disruptor shot, though. Really, honestly, every time the Disruptors hit, it can dictate how this game is going to end, maybe even. That's how serious some of these shots are. Like, the Disruptors are just such a big deal. I cannot emphasize enough. Because they have the potential to just knock down so much of the Terran all at once. Obviously, like I say, just huge opportunity in that regard. Some more Disruptors coming through. Well, again, supply-wise, Stats' army is getting closer and closer. He's going to need his Disruptors, though, and the problem is now as well, there's so little here that if the units can jump on the Disruptors, then obviously you lose your Disruptors. That's bad. Stats is still scrapping around in this corner, so is Oliveira, but Stats is going to come out on top, and he blinks after the Medivacs. He is still behind on army supply, 46 to 28. This is actually becoming maybe one of the most ridiculous games. I mean, there's very potential, a chance that we get to the end of today, and we're like, what was the game of today? Yeah, probably Oliveira versus Stats, right? Because the way this is going is just straight up bonkers. I mean, what an absolute duel here on Golden Aura. The last 10 plus minutes have been extremely close, back and forth, low-tech army fights, where both players have been absolutely scrapping for the chance of just seeing success. Io does take out the bottom left again, however, Oliveira's supply is definitely looking worse for wear, and I think Oliveira is also just getting to the point where he can't necessarily afford to rebuild as much as he used to. For a lot of this game, Oliveira really just had a comfortable economy, and that's always a luxury to have, right? But yeah, that luxury may have seen its better days by now. Honestly, a couple Stalkers have to blink back. We need to stop this orbital from mining. It's so low, but he's got to try and slowly go through the mines, which obviously isn't exactly fun, and that's buying you some gold-based mineral mining off Oliveira, who only has 16 SCVs. Stats gets rid of another Medivac, though. Every single bit of healing that gets taken out is huge, and now he finds himself on the right side of this orbital, where the Widow Mines are not. And as they try to relocate, I feel like these Stalkers are going to get a lot of value in the meanwhile. Oh, in the meantime, we do have a blink to the bottom side, and yep, this orbital is absolutely burning. A couple more Widow Mines to work through, as we have now Observer in range. So the Widow Mines start to drop. We're going to kill a Stalker. Nope, blink back is good. Stats has Oliveira on 14 supply. Stats has Oliveira on GG in this game. Stats is going to win this series 2-1. Absolute game of the day. It's only the first series, but it's actually one